something just happened in Cleveland. And it wasn't a fumble, a press conference, or a trade bombshell. It was a single tap on a phone screen. No words. No video. Just a favorite on TikTok from a quarterback who's supposed to be silent, injured, and forgotten. But that one moment, that quiet digital nod, just might expose the ugliest secret inside the Cleveland Browns organization. We're talking about sabotage. We're talking about careers being buried. And we're talking about one of the most talented young quarterbacks in football, Shadeur Sanders, stuck on the bench while a head coach plays puppet master with the entire offense. Here's how a $230 million quarterback, Deshaun Watson, went from invisible to the most unexpected whistleblower in NFL history without saying a single word. Because when Watson hit that like button, the entire Browns conspiracy suddenly snapped into focus. And what's being revealed now? It changes everything. It happened quietly. No headlines, no post-game interviews, not even a whisper from inside the locker room. While the crowd was still buzzing from a dominant Cleveland Browns win over Miami, the real play that changed the game happened hours later. Off the field. Online. Late that night, Deshaun Watson supposedly sidelined, nursing an Achilles injury, and staying low opened up the TikTok app like millions of us do. He scrolled, paused, watched a video from a fan page called Chad and the Dumb Browns Fans. No sponsors, no filters, just raw honesty. Anger. Frustration. And then, he hit favorite. Just like that, a $230 million quarterback dropped a digital grenade on his own franchise. Because the video wasn't a highlight reel, wasn't a tribute. It was a full-blown takedown of head coach Kevin Stefanski, accusing him of sabotaging quarterbacks, burying talent, and running an offensive system so bland, so predictable that no one can thrive in it. And Watson didn't just watch it. He didn't ignore it. He endorsed it. Now, in the modern NFL, where social media activity is tracked down to every follow, like, and retweet, this isn't a whoops moment. This was calculated, strategic, intentional, because let's be real, we've all seen athletes accidentally like something stupid and try to walk it back. But that's not what this was. Watson didn't double tap a bikini pic or react to a meme. He put his name behind a public accusation from a fan that his own head coach is killing careers. That's not just a like. That's a warning shot. This is where things start to unravel for Stefanski. Because this isn't coming from a washed-up backup venting on Instagram. This is the face of the franchise. The QB, the Browns, mortgaged their future for openly agreeing with one of the harshest criticisms his head coach has ever received. And what Watson liked is exactly what Browns fans have been screaming for years. The video's creator, just a passionate fan, lays out the Browns' quarterback curse in brutal detail. Baker Mayfield looked like a franchise savior until he met Stefanski. Joe Flacco was buried in the system, then the second he got away, looked better. And Watson himself, a three-time Pro Bowler, hasn't looked like Deshaun Watson since he put on a Browns jersey. Every quarterback who walks into Stefanski's world comes out worse than they went in. And the question that made the whole video go viral? Are we even sure Deshaun Watson is bad, or is it just Stefanski's system? That's what made Watson hit that favorite. That brutal, honest, uncomfortable question that put the blame not on the players, but on the man designing the offense around them. And in doing so, Watson told us everything we needed to know. He's not just rehabbing. He's watching. He's paying attention. And he's fed up. Now, the internet exploded when this TikTok surfaced. The fan reposted the screenshot showing Watson had favorited the video. Reactions poured in. Some were shocked. Others saw it as confirmation of a growing theory, that the Browns' biggest problem isn't their quarterbacks, it's the system they're stuck in. Just think about the weight of that for a second. Players gripe, font complaint, analysts speculate. But when the franchise quarterback, the highest paid player in team history, jumps on board and agrees with the fans by liking a video trashing his own coach, that's not frustration, that's internal warfare. And it wasn't random. The timing tells you everything. It came immediately after a win, a comfortable win, a scoreboard blowout over the Dolphins. But Watson wasn't impressed. Because while everyone was cheering the 31-6 box score, he was watching something else unfold on that field. Something dishonest, something controlled, something obvious to anyone who knows what real football looks like. A quarterback, Dylan Gabriel, who barely threw the ball. A game plan designed to protect the wrong guy. A stadium packed with fans waiting to see Shadeur Sanders, the most electric young talent on the bench, and yet the clipboard stayed in his hand all 4 quarters. Watson saw it, and in case anyone missed it, he told us. Not with his voice, but with a tap. And here's the thing. That might be the most honest move Deshaun Watson has made since he arrived in Cleveland. Not a PR statement, not a team-controlled interview, not a watered-down company line. Just a truth bomb dropped straight into the heart of a growing crisis. And now that bomb is ticking. Deshaun Watson didn't just like a video that called out Kevin Stefanski. He basically confirmed what Browns fans have known deep in their bones for years. Cleveland isn't developing quarterbacks, it's devouring them. And the head coach holding the shovel? Kevin Stefanski. Because if you think this whole controversy is about one bad game plan, one benching, or one angry tweet, you're missing the bigger picture. This isn't a one-time thing. This is a pattern. A grim, undeniable cycle where promising quarterbacks walk into Cleveland with talent, hope, and hype, and walk out broken, disrespected, and never quite the same. In fact, if you trace back the last few years, it starts to look less like a coincidence and more like a graveyard. Let's take a look at the bodies. Baker Mayfield, drafted #1 overall, swagger, fire. He turned one of the worst franchises in football into a playoff team. He outdueled the Steelers in Pittsburgh. Fans were ready to believe again. But then Stefanski arrived with his system. And suddenly, Baker wasn't good enough. Too risky. Too loud. Too creative. Stefanski throttled the offense, demanded perfect execution, and buried Mayfield under checkdowns and bootlegs. He stripped away everything that made Baker dangerous. By the end, the coaching staff had turned him into a robotic shell of himself. The Browns moved on, and the narrative? Of course, Baker was the problem. Except now, he's in Tampa Bay, thriving, confident again, leading a real offense, suddenly not broken, suddenly not the issue. Weird how that works. And Joe Flacco. Veteran, Super Bowl champ, not the future, but definitely experienced. When the Browns called him up during a QB crisis, fans thought maybe he could stabilize things. But again, Stefanski's system. Minimal throws, no freedom, constant handoffs, and 3 RD and longs. Result? Flacco looked completely washed. He left, played elsewhere, and somehow looked like he could still sling it. Again, same quarterback, different results, different system, a Deshaun Watson. And then there's the $230 million man himself. Let's not sugarcoat this. Watson was a top 5 quarterback in Houston. He was mobile, smart, electric. He led the league in passing yards on a dysfunctional Texans team. He threw 33 touchdowns with one of the worst O-lines and defenses in the league. And now? He looks like a ghost. Scared to throw. Struggling with reads. Benched with yet another injury. And yet, nobody's asking why. No one's asking if the problem isn't Deshaun Watson, but the play-calling hell he's been trapped in. If Cleveland's offense isn't just bad, it's designed to kill creativity. Watson's digital like wasn't just frustration. It was his way of saying, hey, don't forget I was great once too until I came here. So here we are. The graveyard is full, but it's not done yet. Because buried right now, still breathing, still waiting, is Shadeur Sanders. Maybe Stefanski's greatest potential victim. The most explosive player on the roster. The one guy who doesn't belong in the shadows. A former college star with NFL tools, elite mechanics, and primetime pedigree. And yet, he's standing on the sidelines, wearing a headset, watching a quarterback with under 120 yards passing keep the job. Why? Because if history tells us anything, Stefanski doesn't want quarterbacks who can shine. He wants quarterbacks who can follow instructions. He doesn't build around their skill set. He forces them into boxes they don't fit in. Short passes, no improvisation, no flair, no risk. That formula has one outcome: mediocrity. The Browns could have a Ferrari in the garage, and Stefanski refuses to take off the parking brake. That's not strategy. That's not game management. That's self-preservation. Because the second Shedeur steps on an NFL field and lights up a defense, Stefanski loses control. The system becomes exposed. The excuses fade. The questions start: why wasn't he playing earlier? Why did it take so long? What have we been watching all season? And the worst one? Was Kevin Stefanski ever the right guy at all? That's the question the Browns front office doesn't want to face. That's the judgment day Stefanski is trying to postpone. But here's the twist. Even with his sabotage tactics, his fear-based offense, and his deep play-calling paranoia, the truth is leaking out. Because his own quarterback just turned on him. And if Watson, the face of the franchise, can't survive within this system, what chance does a rookie? What chance does Shadeur Sanders with all the hype, all the expectations, and all the pressure really have? Unless something changes fast, he's next. It was all lining up. All the signs were there. The Cleveland Browns were set to host the Miami Dolphins at home, in the cold, in the pouring rain, with the whole NFL world watching. It was supposed to be the moment, the one fans had been waiting for. The debut of the most electrifying fifth-round quarterback in recent memory, Shadeur Sanders. Now, let's stop and rewind for a second, because this wasn't a guess or a rumor. This wasn't fan fiction or social media hype. This felt like a setup. The stars were aligning. The circumstances were screaming it. The starting quarterback, Dillon Gabriel, had been just good enough to avoid disaster, but nothing more. Heading into the Miami game, his leash was reportedly shorter than ever. Internally, insiders said it outright. One bad half. And he's done. One interception. One fumbled snap. One shaky drive in wet weather. The door was supposed to open. And you know what? It almost did. It felt inevitable. The stadium vibe was electric, cold and soggy but buzzing, and then this happened. Deshaun Sanders Jr., Shadeur's older brother and close confidant, flew into Cleveland specifically for the game. Now, be honest, why would he do that? A random October game, miserable weather, East Coast travel, no official announcement of Shedeur starting. And yet, Bucky Sanders booked a flight. You can feel it, right? Someone got tipped off. Someone knew it was supposed to happen. Even if there wasn't an ESPN alert, the football world had their eyes squarely on Cleveland. Something was brewing. And then kickoff came, and nothing happened. Gabriel started the game. That was no shock. But what happened next? That's where it gets suspicious. The Browns went ultra-conservative. Not normal rookie conservative, but painfully obvious, we cannot risk Gabriel messing up conservative. They ran the ball, then ran it again. Only threw when absolutely forced to, and when they did, it was baby steps. Screens, dump-offs, quick-outs. The receivers were practically doing cardio. And this was during a game the Browns were winning easily. By the third quarter, fans were chanting under their breath. By the fourth, frustration was dripping down the stadium walls harder than the rain itself. No Shadeur, no spark, just Dillon Gabriel jogging out, drive after drive, throwing up a grand total of 116 passing yards. In a blowout. Let's break that down, because the numbers don't lie. Actually, they scream 13 completions, 18 total pass attempts, 0 touchdowns, and yet still played all 4 quarters. Meanwhile, on the sideline, Shadeur Sanders stood there, helmet in hand, jacket zipped up, not even told to warm up. In a game where Cleveland led comfortably, where the defense dominated, and where the perfect low-stakes scenario presented itself to give a young QB a chance, Kevin Stefanski kept the stall door shut. At that point, every Browns fan watching knew this wasn't about football anymore. It was pride. It was ego. It was sabotage wrapped in strategy. Here's the reality. That was the perfect debut window. If Shedeur had gone out there and completed even 5 or 6 passes in garbage time, hit a deep ball, showed a little juice boom, the energy changes. Stefanski loses control. More headlines erupt. The fan base rallies. The media frenzy begins. Suddenly, the locker room starts whispering about the guy with the arm. So Stefanski made sure that opportunity never came. He played Gabriel the entire game, not because of momentum, but because of fear. He knew giving Shedeur even a single snap could turn into something bigger than he could contain. It's not a coincidence. It's not subtle. It's a message. I said Gabriel is my guy. I don't care how talented that rookie is. He's not playing unless I feel like it. That's power tripping. That's fear of being overshadowed. And that's how you turn a young star into a frustrated clipboard holder. And let's be honest, Shadeur Sanders isn't just any backup quarterback. He's a walking documentary. He's the son of primetime. He's a locker room presence, a born leader, a guy who's already used to the spotlight and outshining expectation. The Browns knew what they were getting when they drafted him. So now what? They have a Ferrari in the garage and a used Honda driving them home. And the head coach is throwing away the keys on purpose. And then Watson liked the TikTok. A day after that game. A day after Shedeur got stonewalled without explanation. A day after Deshaun Sanders Jr. flew all that way just to watch his brother stand still. Watson didn't need to say it with words. His thumbs told the truth. So now we ask the question hanging over everything. Why? Why would Kevin Stefanski, a two-time coach of the year, intentionally stall his own offense, suppress one of the most exciting young QBs in the country, and ignore a locker room that clearly sees what the fans do? Why would a head coach with everything to lose job security, credibility, even player trust make decisions that seem so painfully self-destructive? What's his endgame? Because make no mistake, this isn't just stubbornness. This is deliberate. This is methodical. And according to people around the league, there are three main theories. None of them make Stefanski look good, but together, they paint a picture of a coach at war with more than just his quarterback room. Theory a hat, he knows he's done and he's taking his guys with him. This is the scorched earth theory. And it's gaining traction. Inside NFL facilities, it's an open secret. When a head coach feels the writing is on the wall when they know they're likely getting fired, they stop playing to win. They play to prove they were never the problem. That means sticking with their hand-picked players. It means following their version of the system down to the final game. And most of all, it means refusing to let a young, flashy talent like Shedeur come in and expose years of inefficient, outdated coaching. Think about it. If Stefanski puts Shedeur in now and he lights it up, that changes the whole narrative. Suddenly, the question isn't, why weren't the quarterbacks playing well? It becomes, why wasn't Shedeur in sooner? And guess who takes the blame for that? Exactly. So instead of risking that humiliation, Stefanski may be choosing the unthinkable. If my era is ending, it ends on my terms. With my quarterback, with my plays, with my guys. It's not coaching, it's legacy damage control. Theory E, he doesn't like Shadeur Sanders and never did. Let's talk about ego. Kevin Stefanski is known around the league as a no-nonsense coach. He likes structure, control, consistency. He likes players who don't talk back, don't shake things up, and certainly don't bring celebrity energy with them to practice. So imagine how he felt when the Browns drafted Deshaun Sanders' son. A kid who had cameras on him all season at Colorado. A kid who wears designer watches during games. Whose family runs one of the most visible personal brands in all of football. To some coaches, that's a distraction. To Stefanski, that might have been a threat. And here's the truth. Some coaches get protective when a player walks in with more spotlight than they have. They try to humble them, control them. And when that fails, they bury them. Not because of performance, not because of skill level, but because the player represents everything they feel disconnected from: flair, attention, confidence, and new school swagger. That's Shedeur in a nutshell. And if Stefanski is trying to prove a point about his kind of football, leaving Shedeur on the bench is exactly how you do it. Theory 3. He believes the system is bigger than the players. This one is deeper and darker. Some coaches fall in love with their system. Not because it works, but because it's theirs. They get obsessed with the idea that if the system is followed exactly as designed, it will work. They don't need stars. They don't need improvisation. They just need soldiers who follow orders. Stefanski has that mindset. You can see it in every game plan, every safe third down call, every conservative series in the red zone. His offense doesn't need an artist under center, it wants a technician. And here's where it gets dangerous. If you give Stefanski a quarterback who thinks instinctively, who scrambles, who dares to go off script, it freaks him out. Not because it's wrong, but because it challenges his authority. He'd rather win small his way than win big someone else's. And sadly, Shedeur doesn't fit the mold. He's mobile, creative, cocky, daring. Exactly the kind of quarterback Stefanski does not want. So instead of building a playbook around Sanders' best traits, Stefanski is choosing to exclude him entirely, not based on what's best for the team, but what's most comfortable for the coach. Power over performance. So pick your poison. Whether it's a coach trying to go down swinging with his guys, a personal issue with the Sanders family name, or an ego that can't accept improvisational brilliance, the outcome is the same. The Browns are wasting a Ferrari in the garage. Shedeur hasn't been shut down because he's raw. He's being shut down because he doesn't fit into a system that was never built for stars. And now the cracks are starting to show. Watson's TikTok didn't just hint at frustration, it confirmed that something ugly is happening behind closed doors. And regardless of why Stefanski is doing this, the consequences could shape the future of the Browns forever. Step away from the stats, step away from the headlines, step into the locker room. Because behind the cameras, beyond the press conferences, and underneath the fake smiles of game day interviews, something's happening inside the Cleveland Browns facility. And no one's talking about it. At least, not publicly. But behind closed doors, the players are done. They see what's happening, and more importantly, they feel it. You can hear the silence during film sessions. You can feel the lack of energy in practice. This team, despite a winning record, is walking around like they've already been beaten. And it doesn't take a genius to figure out why. Every wide receiver, every tight end, every offensive lineman knows the truth. This offense isn't being held back by talent, it's being held hostage by the man with the headset. Let's start with the obvious. These guys practice with Shadeur Sanders every single day. They see the throws, they see the reads, they know what kind of arm he has, they know what kind of leader he is. And most of all, they know how different the energy feels when he's under center. So picture this. You're a wide receiver who runs crisp routes, burns corners, and has top-tier hands. Every week, you lace up hoping to make plays. You've worked all off-season to sharpen your craft. And then you walk into a game plan that looks like it was pulled from a 1,940 seconds playbook. 3-yard screen, 5-yard slant, run, punt. It wears on you, because when your quarterback throws 18 passes in an entire game, and half of them are checkdowns, you're not an offensive weapon anymore. You're a decoy, a placeholder, a ghost. And raw stats aside, every Browns receiver has felt that wall. They know they're being neutralized, not by the defense, but by their own coach. Which brings us back to Shedeur. The few times he's gotten reps in preseason and practice, something changes. Tempo picks up, coverage tightens. Receivers fight to get open because they know the ball is coming. He doesn't need 10 seconds. He doesn't need the perfect pocket. He gets the ball out fast and aggressive. He commands the huddle. He plays with instinct, something this offense hasn't seen in years. And that is the problem. Because Kevin Stefanski doesn't want instinct. He wants order, predictability, control. He doesn't want a quarterback who's trying to win. He wants a quarterback who simply doesn't lose. And inside the locker room, the divide is growing. Receivers are frustrated. Running backs are tired of carrying the workload. And the O-line? They're blocking twice as hard because the offense rarely puts points up easily. Mistakes get amplified because the system leaves no room for error. And yet, the guy who could ignite all of it? Who could open things up and breathe life into a stale scheme? He's standing on the sideline, helmet on, game ready, ignored. Even the defensive players are noticing it. When your defense holds a playoff-caliber team like the Dolphins to just 6 points, and the offense still runs like it's terrified of its own quarterback, morale starts to crumble. Leaders start asking questions, not out loud, not in front of cameras, but in the weight room, at their lockers, in private group chats. Why isn't the kid playing? What are we doing, man? We're wasting games. This is on Stefanski, it's obvious. And once those cracks form behind the walls, it's hard to patch them. Teams don't fall apart because of talent gaps, they fall apart because of trust. And when the players stop believing that the head coach is acting in the best interest of the team, no amount of game planning or pep talks can fix that. Kevin Stefanski has always walked a fine line, quiet, calculated, reserved. But in the NFL, that only works when you deliver results and when your players believe the system is working for them, not against them. Right now, the Browns' locker room looks like a pressure cooker. Every week that Shedeur doesn't see the field, the heat builds. Every conservative third down, every 100-yard passing day, every moment wasted on safe football while potential greatness rides the bench, it chips away at this team's soul. And then Deshaun Watson liked that TikTok. That wasn't just about Stefanski. That was Watson sending a signal to the locker room. I see it too. The guy with the most clout, with the biggest paycheck, with the most power, siding quietly but directly with the players who've been whispering the same things week in and week out. You think that went unnoticed? You think the guys didn't screen share it 100 times in the group chat? They saw it. They heard it. And now, Coach Stefanski doesn't just have a quarterback controversy. He has a loyalty crisis. Because when your highest paid player, your veterans, your skill guys, and your young QB in waiting are all lined up on one side of the locker room, and you're standing alone on the other, that's not coaching anymore. That's a countdown. The moment Deshaun Watson hit favorite on that viral TikTok, he didn't just agree with a fan's rant. He lit a fuse. And now, every second that ticks by, the pressure builds on one question nobody in the Browns front office knows how to answer. What happens the second Shadeur Sanders finally takes the field and dominates? Because let's be real, nobody's asking if Stefanski is holding him back anymore. That debate ended when Watson co-signed the fans. That debate died when Shedeur stood on the sideline while Dillon Gabriel put up junior varsity numbers in a pro stadium. Now we're asking something way bigger. What happens when the dam breaks and Shedeur gets his shot? Let's walk through it. If Shedeur performs well, it's game over for Stefanski. One big throw, one electric drive, one touchdown that looks different, and it's a wrap. The lie collapses. The curtain gets ripped down. And everyone, media, fans, players, executives, sees clearly what Watson's like was trying to tell them. This could have been our QB the entire time. And let's be honest, Shedeur will make an impact. He's not a placeholder. This isn't some maybe prospect who needs a few years. He has NFL DNA. Read the field. Data. Arm strength. Command of the offense. Dodd. Poise under pressure. A chip on his shoulder the size of Ohio? Absolutely, Darren Jang. He's not stepping onto a field wondering if he belongs. He already knows. And when he finally does and makes the offense look more alive in 3 drives than Gabriel has in 6 games, game, set, Stefanski, done. Because that raises the uncomfortable follow-up. Why wasn't he starting earlier? How many games did we lose playing scared? What did you waste just to protect your offensive ego? And that smoke turns into fire. The fallout is bigger than just one quarterback switch. Let's say Shedeur explodes. Big game. Trending instantly, a new hope for the franchise. Now suddenly, the trust that Stefanski has spent years eroding is demolished in hours. Players who sat quiet will speak up. Veterans who previously toed the line, done being polite. And the Browns owners, already burned by high-dollar, drama-filled contracts and fan backlash, now look like fools for hiring and sticking by a coach who actively tried to hide their best player. And fans? Oh, the fans won't stay quiet. Because Cleveland has been a quarterback desert for decades. They've suffered through busts, has-beens, almosts, and never-would-bes. And now, they finally have a spark, a guy who plays with heart, intelligence, and attitude, and the head coach kept him hidden? You might as well hang 4 sale signs outside the stadium the day after that. If Shedeur struggles, Stefanski still loses. Let's play the counter scenario. Suppose Shedeur gets the nod. But it's a rough start. He makes rookie mistakes. Throws a pick. Too aggressive, too fast, not polished yet. Even then, Stefanski still loses. Why? Because by holding Shedeur back for this long, he's raised the stakes too high. He built a situation where the fan base expects greatness immediately. But he's the one who created those expectations by keeping the kid locked away like gold in a vault. In other words, if he wasn't ready before, then what were you waiting for? If the struggle is real, the blame doesn't fall on the quarterback. It falls on the coach who never gave him live snaps, never eased him in, and let him sit cold for weeks while Dillon Gabriel ran a fossilized offense. So, regardless of how Shedeur performs, Stefanski takes the hit. The Watson effect spreads. And meanwhile, Deshaun Watson sits back, watching everyone scramble around a mess he warned the world about with a single like. He didn't need to go to the media. He didn't need to call for the coach's job. He didn't need to start locker room drama. All he had to do was show us the story was already being written behind the scenes. And now, more dominoes will fall. If Shedeur takes over and shines, guess who gets soft credit for pushing the door open? Watson. He looks smart, insightful, self-aware. A vet who recognized the pattern and said something silently. His entire public image, scarred as it once was, takes a turn toward mentor, team voice, locker room sage. And that is devastating to Stefanski's grip on power. He didn't just lose the team, he handed the narrative to another player. And in today's NFL, The public-facing story can be just as lethal as the scoreboard. The Browns are at a tipping point. Right now, this team is teetering. They're good enough defensively to make a run, but internally, the tension is getting toxic. The moment Shedeur steps on the field and shows even one flash of what we saw at Colorado. One scramble, one missile across the middle, one fearless audible that moves the chains. The entire organization has to answer for why they waited so long. And answers don't come easy when you've been caught hiding the truth. Cleveland isn't just dealing with a quarterback controversy. This is much bigger than that. This is a full-blown identity crisis. Because when your franchise quarterback uses social media to expose your head coach, when your most talented young player is being deliberately sidelined, and when your locker room, your fans, your entire city starts asking whether the person leading the team is actively holding it back, that's not just bad coaching, that's betrayal. For years, the Cleveland Browns have sold a familiar story to fans. Trust the system, trust the coach, trust the process. But what happens when that system becomes the problem? What happens when the guy tasked with developing quarterbacks turns out to be the one burying them alive? And even worse, what happens when the players start breaking that silence? What Deshaun Watson did with a simple TikTok favorite wasn't about going viral, it was a cry for help. A digital flare shot into the sky, saying what everyone else was too afraid to say out loud. This offense is broken, our best quarterback is sitting on the bench, and our coach isn't interested in winning, unless it's his way. But now there's no turning back. The toothpaste is out of the tube. Watson's signal brought the whispers public, and in doing so, he sparked something dangerous, something irreversible: accountability. For the first time in the Stefanski era, people are demanding real answers. Why hasn't Shadeur Sanders touched the field? Why has Dillon Gabriel been protected like royalty while producing like a game manager from 1976? Why are elite wide receivers catching just 2 or 3 balls a game when they know the kid with the cannon is on the sideline watching? Why is there a system in place designed not to empower talent but to mute it? These questions used to be fan noise. Now, they're valid, they're mainstream, and they're impossible to ignore. Time is running out. Inside team facilities, narratives turn quickly. Coaches lose locker rooms one player at a time. At first, Stefanski lost Baker, then Flacco, then Watson. Now it's Shedeur. And if this continues, he's not just going to lose the quarterback room, he's going to lose the entire team. Because no one plays hard when they believe the outcome is predetermined. No one gives their full energy if they think talent is being punished and politics is being rewarded. And no one wants to run through a wall for a head coach who's sitting on a potential franchise QB and choosing 3-yard outs instead. The Browns are on the edge of wasting another year, another roster, another cycle of what if. This defense is championship worthy. These playmakers can compete with anyone. But the foundation is crumbling. And it didn't start with poor passing or conservative game planning. It started with fear. Fear from a head coach who cares more about being right than being effective. The what if that will haunt Cleveland. This is going to be one of those stories that won't go away. No matter how the season finishes, people are going to remember. The viral TikTok that flipped the narrative. The game where Sanders was supposed to debut and didn't. The $230 million QB sounding the alarm with a single tap of his thumb. And most of all, they'll remember the moments they could see it. Shadeur standing perfectly still while the boos rained down after another wasted drive. His brother in the stands, waiting for the future to begin but watching it get buried in real time. Gabriel protected like glass. Stefanski hiding behind wins that don't mean anything. Because sometimes, the most dangerous lies are the ones hidden by just enough success. The Browns beat the Dolphins by 25. But it cost them the trust of their most important weapon. They won on paper and lost everything that mattered. 2. So, what happens next? That's the beauty and the danger of this moment. The next move feels inevitable. But it hasn't happened yet. Maybe an injury forces Stefanski's hand. Maybe the fans finally chant loud enough that ownership has to act. Maybe Shadeur's moment comes out of desperation and not trust. And when it finally happens, when they let go of the leash and let Primetime's kid take the wheel, if he explodes, Cleveland changes forever. New identity, new hope, new era written around the guy they've been hiding. But even if he doesn't, even if Shedeur struggles, he still wins. Why? Because he didn't choose this silence. He didn't build this system. He didn't ask to be hidden. He survived it. He stayed ready. He kept his mouth shut while his game sharpened behind the curtain. And when the lights finally hit, win or lose, it's his moment. Meanwhile, Kevin Stefanski should already be packing. So maybe the question isn't, is Shadeur Sanders ready? Maybe it's, is Cleveland finally ready to let him lead? Because the Browns don't have a quarterback problem. They have a cowardice problem. And the only thing more dangerous than ruining a season is burying a star before he even gets a chance to rise.